Hi, I am Aude. Welcome back to my channel where we talk about personal development and strategic advice from a lawyer's point of view to help you create a life on your terms. Today we're talking about how to be more assertive without being a jerk, and I'm going to give you 7 steps along with very practical example taken from Dr. Jordan Peterson's interview and demonstration at uni. We could all think of times where we know we should have stood up for ourselves, but we didn't. Either we were caught off guard, or either we were afraid to be misinterpreted or to hurt somebody. It is so hard for many of us to put across our point of view in a constructive manner. And the 7 tips I'm going to share with you along with Dr. Jordan Peterson's demonstration are really proven tactics I've been using with my clients in many different situations. Before we dive in, I want to remind you that if you want to feel more empowered in your life, download the free ebook which will help you focus on what you can control in your environment, which is always a great place to start. You will find the link in the description below, of course, and please subscribe to that channel to receive notification every time a video comes out, and thank you for doing that. First step, get in touch with what you want. This is the essential component of being authentically more assertive. You need to have figured out for yourself what you want in life. And I would recommend that you watch my last video on learning how to decide what you want. This is the whole process in itself. But if you want to stand up for yourself, you have to have your goal, your vision, and outcome well laid out and well defined. Then you need to have a strategy that matches your goal. Otherwise, you're left with a vague sense of dissatisfaction and frustration, which is nearly impossible to articulate. And if you cannot articulate what you want, then you cannot negotiate your position in life. But if you know what you want and you know why, then you can make a case for yourself. Second, be confident that your needs are valid. People often feel embarrassed because they assume their needs are not as important as others. And they just stop expressing themselves because of that. But what you need to realize is that if you're not used to communicate your needs, then it's not going to be that natural to you. This may require a little bit of work, especially for codependent and empaths, because we are programmed to think that our needs are not important. Know what you want in life and therefore acquire certainty in this respect will greatly improve a sense of self-validation. And then as you express these needs, which is the practice of becoming assertive, you need to assume they're valid even if you're not that sure about it. It's actually through expressing them and receiving a reaction that you will learn the validity of your needs as they are accepted and received by the other. And that's why it's so important to get there even if you're not too sure of yourself. Give a reasonable explanation when you make a point for yourself. And it's not about getting into an argument, but it's about really explaining to the other person a particular point of view that she or he may not have integrated. Let's take an example. Let's say that your mom is always venting a grievance in front of the kids. Well, you may explain that you're ready to listen to her, but you would greatly appreciate that she does complain in front of powerless children. It only brings stress to the situation. They're not equipped, obviously, to deal with adults' worries, and it will negatively impact their perception of family reunion, which in the end does not help anybody. And by talking about family reunion and the sake of the kids, it's not so much about your needs. This is about a bigger picture. Third, develop the option mindset. Authentic assertiveness comes from a place of independence. So the best mindset to develop is to believe that you don't really need any specific person. And in our example, you don't need your mother to change her behavior or even to agree to what you have to say. Your goal is first to lay out what you want, second and potentially achieve a better relationship, a better outcome as you express your needs. But you will be fine whether the person receives your point of view or don't. I always advise you to work out options and why you don't need the other persons. So whenever you walk into a discussion, dating, business, friendship, whatever, you're not in a position of neediness, which is the surest way to be walked all over. The best way to achieve this result is to focus on what you bring to the table, and that is unique in any interaction. And I know this can be scary, but when you are willing to walk into a discussion with the idea that you can walk away, you do better every single time. So this is really a mindset. And being assertive is also about accepting responsibility and consequences of your behavior, no matter what could be the other's reaction. It's crucially important. Please remember that negotiation and conflict are somewhat indistinguishable. Avoiding conflicts in the short term only pushes the issue in the mid and long term, and it is better to face the truth on the onset and to preserve yourself from the inevitable. When something is not right in a project or whatever, it is best to confront it right away. The pain you're trying to avoid will eventually have multiplied tenfold when it comes to the surface, and with many more collateral damages. Fourth, acknowledge the other. Everything is not about power game. So let's go with Dr. Jordan Peterson now. He uses a technique that he calls pacing your reality. And even though he does not share the other person's opinion, he shows that he understands your point of view. In this example, you're going to see Jordan Peterson, who is religious, listens how the other person speaks about atheism.
There's a good case to be made for atheism. I mean, let's make no bones about it. Because you could say, in some sense, there's been 300, 400 years of brilliant scientists who've been doing nothing but laying the foundation for an objective, empirical atheism.
The acknowledgement by Jordan of the other's opinion goes beyond the simple and polite, I understand your point of view, but by showing that he has actually considered and even validated the other person's point of view, although he still disagrees, Jordan shows respect and confidence. This is a really important point because it allows people to change their mind. In any conversation, the hardest thing to admit you've committed a mistake. And this is why the absolute point of no return in a conversation is when somebody feels like an idiot or dumb for having their perspective in the first place. Actually, they would rather stick to it than appearing foolish. So Jordan Peterson, while integrating and understanding the other's point of view, explained why he has come to a different point of view. And this gives the person the opportunity to go a step further in the reasoning rather than to deny themselves. This is subtle but strategic to the outcome of the discussion. Once you managed to make the person change their initial position, allow always people to save face. 5. Looking to create a win-win situation. So this requires, of course, some empathy and to put yourself in the other's shoes. It's trying to demonstrate really how your request is going to bring value to the both of you and create a more fluid dialogue. Assertiveness is a dialogue, while aggressiveness creates a debate. And your goal is really to educate the other person to understand your point of view, which can never be achieved from a place of righteousness. The right attitude and body language. Number 6. Assertiveness is in itself confidence, while being a jerk, being aggressive, come from a defensive state of mind and conveys an I feel threatened type of psychology. Aggressiveness, or being a jerk, like the title of the video, is actually the contrary of assertiveness. So stay calm, articulate, speak slowly. There is no need to do big gesture, to say too much or overdo it. And if the other person gets annoyed, gets excited, gets emotional, just stay where you are. You don't have to follow the other person ups and downs. You hold your position, so to speak. The way you deliver the message is, of course, quite important. So I would advise to avoid any generalization such as, oh, you always do this, you always do that, or you never do this or that. But you need to start from yourself, start from your feeling, and avoid hijacking the other's experience. Start like, I feel, in my experience, according to what I've been able to observe. And the idea is the conversation will pan as follow. You know what you want and you explain the reasons behind it. You've, of course, listened to the other's point of view. And third, let's see how we can negotiate a sensible outcome for everybody. 7. show flexibility. The idea is to avoid putting the other into the corner or making him or her feel that they don't have much of a choice. And maybe you can anticipate a few solutions that would meet both your needs. This allows the other person to have a say in the discussion and to become more prone to find mutual ground. Showing flexibility doesn't mean that you will accept everything, and there are a few non-negotiable. I have a rule technique to actually avoid being dragged into situations that I know will be detrimental to me because they just don't work with me. So let me give you an example. I don't like to be stood up by people at the last minute. It just doesn't work with me. So I have this rule, which I will accept it once with a good excuse, last minute, things happens. I will actually warn the person at the first time, I understand for this time, but just don't do that to me because I have this rule. There's no third chance. It doesn't have to be a rule, whatever works for you. But the idea here is that when you raise a general boundary that applies to anybody without distinction, people are much more likely to respect it and not to take it so personally because it's a general rule that you follow no matter what. It takes away the blame from the other person, and also it has the benefits to prevent you from having to deal with disturbing behavior. So it's a good technique. 8. The narrative behind the case. I said at the very beginning of this video that there was 7 steps, which was true. So this one, the 8th one, is a bit of a bonus, which would rather be used in a demonstration rather than a simple request. Being able to make your case while telling a story is very powerful. Actually, storytelling is very underrated. And you got to see, again, Jordan Peterson. In one of his demonstrations, he actually flows quickly from one topic to the other. And these next clips were taken over a span of not even 3 minutes.
If you're competent at fighting, that actually decreases the probability that you're going to have to fight, because when someone pushes you, you'll be able to respond with confidence. And that's partly why Jung believed that it was necessary for people to integrate their shadow. When you study Nazi Germany, for example, or you study the Soviet Union, particularly under Stalin, and you're asking yourself, well, what are these perpetrators like? Forget about the victims, let's talk about the perpetrators. The answer is, they're just like you. It's a matter of facing the thing you least want to face. And everyone has that there's this old story in King Arthur where the knights go off to look for the Holy Grail.
That was 5 different topics over a few minutes. And as you can see, they're all of interest to the listener because Jordan Peterson delivers his point of view from a global human perspective that everybody understands and show how it applies to their life. Also, one of the great things that Jordan Peterson does is that he constantly relates his story and pointing back to the listener. Something else he does, which actually gives him a lot of charisma, is the use of archetypes. I personally love archetypes. And even if you think you're not familiar with them, you actually know them well. They have the power to take a demonstration to another level. They're like a type of human foundation and concepts that everybody understands intuitively, commonly used in fairy tale and legends. They leave a print in our psyche from a very young age. That's one of the reasons why they're so powerful. And also, I think they mirror the human condition in itself. Series like Game of Thrones, and why they're so popular, maybe not the 8th season, but that's only my humble opinion. When you think of the different characters, they're all archetypes. You have the warrior, you have the bright one, and they're all quite complex, and they all have their journeys through which they grow in one direction or the other. And my point is, sometimes the most convincing way of explaining a point of view is through the narrative and the journey of the hero. So let's look at Dr. Peterson again.
That's the witch in Hansel and Gretel who fattens up the kids and eats them. How many of you have seen Disney's Sleeping Beauty? It's very difficult to understand Jung outside of a narrative context. And so I'm going to walk you through The Lion King today. The woman encounters this mysterious and aggressive male and tames him. That's the female hero myth, as far as I can
So
tell.
as you can see, archetypes connect with people on a deeper level. They intuitively feel true. And if you can relate your demonstration to something familiar through an archetypal story, then you're going to be more persuasive, and also it's going to stick in the memory of the people. At last, I would like to leave you with this thought. You owe to you and to the world to speak up. Because if you don't, you will let people come into power that won't let you speak up. And I want for all of us, dear one, to awaken to our own truth, one by one, and so to preserve freedom for the collective. And this is also one of the reasons I'm doing these videos. And in my next video, I will talk about the 4 essential components to make a first good impression. Thank you very much for following me. And if you want to receive notification for the next video, subscribe and press the bell button. Don't hesitate also to leave comments. I'm always happy to answer all of them.